presentation for, all right, perfect. So this will be the last non-public presentation that we have. And so just for individuals that were not able to join and be present, we are going to be posting all of these presentations on our website. And so again, good morning. My name is Rachel Norman. I serve as the director of the certification office. With me today, I have Miss Lana Hutchinson, who is the deputy director of our office and will be talking to you today about this new system. Many of you on this call, I think at least one or two could be mistaken, did participate in both our alpha and our beta testing. And so if you did have an opportunity to do that, you know just how intuitive and amazing this system is and can be. And so, again, we will be dropping all relevant documents throughout the course of the presentation, all relevant slide decks that include links that you can get into. We do know from previous presentations that we will need close to almost the full hour. So we would ask that you save your questions to the end after the demo, as we do have time built in for Q&A. And again, we will periodically drop all relevant documents in the chat throughout the course of the call. Also, all of these are posted on our website. And with that, I will turn it over to Miss Lana Hutchinson.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We are here to talk about the Louisiana Certification Portal that did officially launch yesterday on July 28th. The system is now live and accessible, although there may be some access requests that you'll need to make before you can view it from the HR perspective, and we'll go through those access requirements in just a minute. The Louisiana Educator Certification features are integrated into the Louisiana Educator Portal. And that portal has been up and running for over a year, I believe, for all the evaluation information. And so the certification pieces are just being dropped in there, as evaluation and certification are pretty closely tied together. We're working towards having kind of a one-stop shop for educators for all things certification, evaluation, and eventually there will be some additional features added as well for accessing reference documents and other things. Some of the things that you can do as you plan for and during this transition period, the window to submit remaining PDF applications through Teach LA Live will be pretty short. For a lot of technological reasons, we cannot have both systems up and running for an extended period of time. So the final day to submit PDF applications through Teach LA Live, the current system, is August 11th. Effective August 12th, all applications will need to be submitted through the Louisiana Educator Portal and the certification features there. And the PDF application packets will no longer be accepted. The forms are all now all online forms rather than using the fillable PDFs. And so when applications are submitted through the Louisiana Educator Portal, those online forms will need to be completed. If you have PDF applications that you're working through with the educators, we would encourage you to get those submitted as quickly as possible so that they can be reviewed before, or at least submitted for review before August 12th. Any application that is correctly and completely submitted through Teach LA Live before the submission process is turned off will be reviewed and processed before Teach LA Live is completely disabled. But any application that is kicked back for any reason, either they don't have a background check on file or there's some sort of error with the application in the social security number, the date, the other minimum requirements we look for. If something is returned after the window to submit through Teach LA Live has closed, then the correction will also need to be submitted through the Louisiana Educator Portal. So we encourage you to work through those PDF applications quickly, get them uploaded so we have time to review them and let you know if corrections are needed or CBCs or whatever, so that we can kind of streamline the process and hopefully not have too many people that have to kind of restart the application in the new system. Another thing that you can do if your school system or your school uses any sort of email spam or junk filters, the email address that all messages from this new system will come from is that address that's listed on the slide. And I've also dropped the slide deck into the chat, so you can download that and save it to have reference for that email address. You may need to speak to your technical support people or check your own personal spam and junk folders and make sure that this email address has been whitelisted or put on the allow list so that any emails from that email address actually get through to you. It is one of those addresses that kind of looks like it might be spam or junk that some filters may block. So you would want to make sure that that is being allowed through whatever your mail management system is. Then the subject lines on all the messages should be pretty clear to understand that that is a application case response, and you should be able to tell who the applications are for. We're including the applicant name and the applicant type, all of that information in the subject line. We'll also be retaining the responses to the application with the application itself. So if you do happen to miss an email, you can also check the application itself, and I'll demonstrate how we would do that when we get into the live demonstration portion of this training session. But before you can access the system, there are some access requirements that you'll need to complete. For your educators, the applicants, if the applicants have used the Louisiana Educator Portal for evaluation previously, they shouldn't need to do anything additional. They'll just log into the Louisiana Educator Portal and the certification options will be available to them. So if you have folks that in the past year or two have worked in the public system that have just come over to the non-public environment, they may already have that access. Any educator that does not have access to the Louisiana Educator Portal already from previous experience would just need to create a MILA account. And the link is included there on the slide, or you can just Google MILA and it comes up as a search result. And that MILA is becoming the kind of single sign-on, one-stop shop for managing the security and verification for all state systems, at least related to the Department of Education and others. So some educators may have a MILA account for other reasons, as may you. If you've accessed our help center, is one other certification system that's already using MILA for account verification as well. As HR personnel, you're going to need an eScholar staff ID, a MILA account, and then there's a permission request. And Rachel has already dropped into the chat the instructions for making the permission request. But you cannot make that permission request until after you have an eScholar staff ID and a MILA account. So those first two things need to be taken care of. Again, you may or may not have an eScholar staff ID already. That will depend on which types of other state systems you have been accessing in the recent past. I do understand there are some non-public reporting systems that would require the staff ID, but we've also been informed that a lot of non-public folks will not have requested a staff ID yet. So that is the first step. And then the MILA account, if it already exists, that's fine. You just need to get those two things taken care of before you can request the permissions to review certification applications. The instructions, the user guides have already been posted on Teach Louisiana. We do have the instructions posted as for requesting the permissions. Those are posted on Teach Louisiana as well, but they are kind of hidden. So if you are unable to locate the instructions for requesting permissions, you can always contact us through our Teacher Certification Help Center. So to request a staff ID, if you don't have one, or even if you're just not sure if you have one, then you can request that through the EdLink Ops portal. The EdLink Ops portal is linked here on this slide. Again, it's something that just a Google search, it comes up. And when you access the EdLink Ops portal, it'll ask you to select your account type. And for non-public personnel, you would choose I'm a PK to 12 non-public school employee. You'll enter your requested name and contact information, personal information, save and submit that, and that will submit a request to create the staff ID. Now, this is not instantaneous, so you may need to request that staff ID and then wait a day or two before you try to request the other permissions, because that staff ID does need to actually be physically created in the eScholar system before you can take the next step and request the permissions. So we would ask, after you've requested your staff ID, you may or may not get a confirmation that the staff ID was processed after it's been received and they have verified that you don't already have one and issued a new one. We're hearing mixed things from other folks about whether or not they actually got a confirmation, but some folks are getting the staff ID and getting in. Please also keep in mind that with the launch of this system, there will be potentially high volume of people requesting staff IDs, so it may take an extra day or two. They're usually very quick on the turnaround, but they may have a lot of requests right now. If you aren't sure if you have one, you can submit the request. If you already have one, they'll identify the duplicate and you'll already have it. Or the other option to see if you have logged in, if you log into the Louisiana Educator Portal and follow the instructions for requesting the permissions, if you choose permission request and follow the steps and you are actually able to go all the way through all the steps, then you have a staff ID, because it won't even show you the choices to request permissions for certification unless you have an appropriate staff ID. And with that, I'm going to swap my share from the presentation slides to a live demonstration. Okay. So we are testing or demonstrating today in our test environment. Just as a caveat, before we even start, if we show any information in here, maybe of somebody that you're familiar with, then don't worry if that information doesn't look accurate. That this is all play data. This is our test environment for making sure everything works and flows as is appropriate, and no changes that I may make here or applications that I submit here will actually make any changes to anybody's certification. This is just a test environment. And I'm currently logged in as an educator. And so any educator, we're going to start with how the applications get to you. So any educator that logs in will have my educator profile as their starting point, and start new certification application will be available to them in the upper right-hand corner and on the left-hand side. And so for a lot of applications, your applicants, your educators are just going to choose start new certification application. And then one of two things will happen. The first option, if they do not have a criminal background check or a clear credential on file with our office, then the only option that will be available to them is this application packet. And we use that term a little loosely, for fingerprint clearance required before proceeding. And so this will notify them that we do not yet have that that criminal background check on file, and that they will need to complete that before they can complete any other application. So this new system is going to check for that automatically and prevent some of the frustrations that I know some folks have experienced since January of submitting an application and then we return it because we don't have the background check, and then you have to submit it again after the background check, and it's kind of been a lot of extra steps for everyone. This system will now prevent them from even starting the application and let them know that they need to do the background check first. And so they would just click the little plus sign to start the application. This is a very quick, short application with no fee required or anything like that, where we simply ask for their personal information, address, and the address and the date of birth and the phone number information can be edited. Their legal first name, legal last name, their social security number, and their email address will import from their Mila account or their eScholar account. So that information will not be editable. This will also help streamline the application process, as it will remove all possibility of people mistyping their social security number. Social security numbers will be verified when the accounts are created against the social security card, and then nobody ever has to type it in again and risk making a typo that delays the application. So that information will already be filled in. Once they have filled the first application, they'll have to fill in their address and that because that information is not part of their profile. But once it's been filled in on the first application, the application will save that, the system will save that information and it'll autofill in any future applications. They can change it at any time, but it will kind of save them a little time by autofilling that on all subsequent applications. So we ask that they provide the Social Security card and driver's license for just this fingerprint process. Answer the questions on the professional conduct form. These are the same professional conduct form questions we've been asking for a while. Now, as I navigate through the application, once I can finish filling out everything that's required on the page, this complete button becomes visible. And the applicants will need to complete each page by clicking the complete button after all the required information has been entered. Now, as I click the complete button, you can see on the left side, the system's also walking me through the application and checking a little checkbox next to the forms that I have already completed. So on any application, once the applicant has completed all forms that are in this applicant section, those are the ones they are responsible for. Then they'll get the section review, which will verify that all their forms are completed. And again, if everything is done on all the previous pages, they would click complete on the final section review. And that's the form that will insert their digital signature on the application. So this will also help prevent outdated signatures for a couple of reasons. First, it's going to date and timestamp it when they actually sent it and when they actually signed it. If it's an application that needs to come to your office, then that signature will be applied at the moment that it's then sent to your office. And I'll show you an application that gets routed to HR in just a moment. But that will immediately make sure it gets sent to you, which that should help prevent some scenarios where maybe the educator fills out the application and then they forget to get it to you. And by the time you receive it, it already has kind of old signatures. You'll get it immediately after they sign it. Now, the other reason that this will help prevent outdated signatures is that any application that is started has to be fully completed and submitted to our office within 45 days. So if the educator starts the application and then kind of drags their feet on signing it, and they don't get it signed within 45 days and route it over to your office, it'll just disappear. Then when they come back to try to finish it, it'll be gone and they'll need to start with a new, fresh application. So we should be able to also very much prevent some of the issues that we have had over the years with outdated signatures on documents that have to be updated. This will also prevent them from ever choosing the wrong application or using an old saved copy to start the application. You have to access LEC and access whatever is the currently available packet. So when I complete this one, since it doesn't require any HR verification, it'll just ask me to proceed to checkout, and I could say, okay, check out, and submit that application. And that will send that information to the teacher certification office. And we will, in the case of the fingerprint packet, use that information to go ahead and add them to our teacher database with their verified Social Security number. And we're all hoping that this will also kind of smooth the process with the CBCs. As we've discovered that the CBCs that we receive, particularly for new people who don't hold any other certification, it's often difficult for us to know from just the CBC which is the correct social, what's the correct variation of their name, because the reports often have different variations of the Social Security number, maybe with just a couple digits transposed, different variations of the name, which may be like maiden, married, divorced variations, but also other variations that are nicknames, short names, as it pulls from lots of different history data systems. And so when we receive one for somebody who's not in our database already, we don't know which of the Social Security numbers is the correct one. Now, many of you may have already seen where a clear credential was requested, that fingerprint sent to us, and even the clear credentials issued. If you search by name, you can find it. But when we receive an application, we respond and say, we don't have a clear credential for this social security number. And we're hoping this should help smooth that out, because we'll have their actual social. And when we receive a report with 3 or 4 social securities, we'll know which one is the actual verified from the social security card that they provided before doing the background check. So we hope that those are both a couple of features that will smooth out some of the frustrations folks have experienced. The educators can also use list of applications on the left side when they're in the Louisiana Educator Portal to kind of review the status of all their applications. Any application that only has a review button has been submitted to the certification office, and it'll say on the status also, application submitted. And any application that still has a continue button, that one is still in process. And so they could always hit continue to see where it is. So now I'm going to sign out as that educator and sign in as somebody who does have a CVC on file. And when I click Start New Certification Application, then here you can see there's a really long list of available applications. Now, this is not a direct one-to-one for the PDF applications, and then there's an immediate direct connection to the exact same application in LEC. Our goal as we created this system was not necessarily to just make it the same. We wanted to make it better. And in some cases, we found that over the years, people have had some confusion about what application to use for certain types of requests, because we had so many requests kind of lumped onto a single PDF document. So we have kind of broken some of them out to make the list a little bit more clear as to which application to use, depending on what you're trying to request, and also to have the application step by step ask for specifically the documents that are needed for that request. So I have added to the chat a couple of additional reference documents that are also linked on teachlouisiana.net that are crosswalks or reference guides to use as you start learning what the name of the application is in LEC, as compared to what you would have used before with the PDF. One of those documents lists all of the LEC applications alphabetically with a little brief description of the requests that are made using that application. And then in the far right column, it will tell you which PDF application that used to be. And then the other is the reverse of that. It lists all the PDF applications, breaks down the different requests that were made on that application, and lists which LEC application to now use to make that same request. So whichever one makes better sense to you as you're trying to kind of figure out and learn the new applications that are available. I also like to demonstrate that this is also, the list of applications is also just a searchable website, just like many others. You can use your find and search features on the website to help you locate the application that may be used. There's descriptions below each one. And so if I, for instance, choose my find feature and say level 1, then it's going to show me the applications that have level 1 in the description. And so content leader, maybe that's not what I want. No, maybe not mentor teacher. That's what I want to do. I want to renew a level 1. And so you can use those features to just kind of get familiar with it. And then again, also the reference guides to help you identify what application that you need to be using. So I'm going to start the renewal hire teaching certificate. And that's our most common, highest volume application that we receive. So I always feel like that's a good one to demonstrate as we walk through the process. Now, when applicants are completing the applications, and even on many of the HR forms, to the right of each form, there is some information that is specific to that form. Now, the first page here on every application for the applicant will always be the personal information. And that's how the system is identifying them and pulling in the identifying information we'll need when we receive the application to know which certificate we need to be looking at to process the request. So that the information on this first page is very generalized, general guidance for navigating all applications. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want to request a name change with this application. Again, Social Security card and driver's license required with all applications, just as they are with the PDF applications. But now the applicants will be providing that rather than your office needing to collect them. And they will complete that page, professional conduct form with all requests, as we have been doing. And then they'll get to the specific request that is being made with this application. A lot of the applications also have additional guidance that says, this is the only things you can do here. Do not submit this application in these other scenarios, which we hope will help folks kind of navigate and figure out if they're using the right application and reduce the number of times we get the wrong application and then have to deny. One of the cool features that we could have never done with PDFs that we're able to do with the online system is we're able to pull into the actual application information from our databases. So here, for instance, I'm showing, this is displaying the certificates that this person already holds. And we hope that'll help also help the applicants figure out if they're making the right requests and help you as the HR, as you're supporting and helping them with these applications, help you figure out if they're making the right request. Because you can see what they currently hold already there. Now, in this scenario, this person does not hold a certificate that would be renewed with this renewal hire. I'm going to go ahead and do it just for demonstration purposes, but this would be if you are on this application, which can only be used to renew a level 1 or advance from an OS to a level, and you don't see a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 or an OS right here, that's a place to say, whoa, this is the wrong application. So we'll pretend I hold a level 1, and I'm going to choose to either renew it, advance to a higher certificate, and then we do still include the option to select advance to the higher, or if the higher can't be issued, renew the current certificate. And then also this application is used to advance from some of our temporary certificates to the Louisiana certificate as well. So I'll choose advance or renew. We're also able to pull in the educational qualifications that are currently on the educator certificate and show all the degrees that we already have on file. If we have the degree on file, we don't need that transcript again. So if, for instance, they wanted to be considered for a level 3 certificate, which requires a graduate degree, then you would be able to see, and they will be able to see right here if we already have that graduate degree on their certificate. If there's an MEd listed here, then we don't need additional transcripts. If there's not, then they would need to attach transcripts if they want to be considered for the level 3 teaching certificate. And then we ask the question, essentially, is your degree already there, or do you want to provide transcripts? And then they can select and add the transcripts if they want to provide those to be considered. We're not advancing from the OS, so I'll select that, then they'll sign. Now, once the applicant has completed an application, you'll notice over here there's also an HR section, and that's going to be your section of the application. So once they've completed their part, they will click the complete button, and when the application includes an HR section, they will be prompted to choose their HR office. If they are or have recently been reported in other state employment systems, this pick list will default to wherever they're reported or the last known place they were reported. Obviously, our non-publics don't report in those systems, so they're never going to default to a non-public system, at least not initially. But they can choose anybody. So if they need to send this to the Baton Rouge Diocese and not East Baton Rouge Parish Public Schools, they would just choose the correct HR office, click OK, and now that application has been sent to the Baton Rouge Diocese. The applicant is now done at this point. And I'm going to sign out as the applicant and sign in as the HR person for the Baton Rouge Diocese. Now, when you log in, once you've been granted the non-public permissions, you'll have the first 3 options, just like your educators, and you'll have an additional option for non-public certification. And you'll select that option, and that's going to default to active applications. And these are the applications that have been sent to your office to be reviewed, signed, whatever. And so we can see right here, this Brandy Beals, that's the application that I just completed. And then there's another one that's been waiting since yesterday. So if you click on each application over to the right, you can see what's been done and what still needs to be done. Anything that's locked has been completed and signed. Anything that's unlocked and just has a little checkbox empty, that is what still needs to be done. So on this application, the applicant has completed their initial forms, the HR forms, which is the experience verification and the HR section. Those have been completed. And the only thing that's not been done is checkout. So this one's waiting on the applicant to do something and doesn't need any further action from the HR office. This one, however, you can see those two HR forms. Those forms are not locked. So those are the HR forms that need to be completed. An application will stay in your active applications from the moment that the educator sends it to your office through the completion of the HR, after you have completed your part until they have paid. Once they've paid and submitted, then it will be submitted to our office. This status right here will change to application submitted, but it'll still be in your active applications. And it'll stay there until the application is assigned to a certification specialist for processing. So you will kind of have a long list of things that maybe you've already done what you need to do, but it's waiting to move forward through the process before it leaves your active applications. So I'm going to show you first what to do with the applications that you need to do something with, and then we'll come back to working with this list. So this application that I just started as the applicant is now the next one that needs to be that I need to complete as the HR representative. So I'll just click the arrow next to that application, and that will bring me into the application itself. You'll be able to review everything the applicant entered, but you cannot make changes to this information. But you can check it in. You can check it for completeness, but the system will control for completeness in a lot of ways. It won't let them save the professional conduct form if they haven't answered all 3 questions. It won't let them submit their personal information if they have not attached something in the social security number and driver's license required uploads. So you should find that there are a lot fewer places where they haven't done everything they're supposed to do. And you'll notice the format's a little different, and that's and instead of asking questions, it's just showing the answers to the questions. Because again, the applicant forms cannot be completed by you, but you can review them. If you do find any errors on the personal information, their email address is right there. So you can copy paste and then send them separately an email that says, hey, I got your application, but it's wrong. I need you to go fix it. And the applicant guide includes instructions on how they can go unlock, make a change, and then relock it, which will send it back to you for review. Then in the HR section is the forms that you would need to complete as the HR representative. The primary form that you will work with is the in-state experience verification. There's a couple of different options. Some have upload options, some have experience, but they're all verifications of experience. And whatever form is provided is the one that we'll need for that particular application. So when you use the in-state experience verification, this form can be completed by the applicants in that they can add information to it, but they cannot complete clicking the blue button at the bottom and sign that form. So some schools prefer to have the applicants go in and add their own experience, and then the HR office just reviews it and signs off. Other schools prefer to tell the applicants not to touch the experience form and that they, as the HR office, will only record what they can verify for themselves. Either way is fine with us. We did do some surveys to try to find out if there was a strong enough preference one way or another to guide our design. And it turned out we had pretty strong opinions on both sides. So we have left it so that either can happen. And you are free to set your own local policies around that. You are free to tell your educators, I won't sign it if you haven't put your experience in. I will only review the experience, make edits if necessary, and then sign the form. You're also free to tell your educators, do not touch that form. I will not sign it if you've put anything in there. and anything you enter will be removed. That's fine with us too. It's also fine with us if you just take them as they come. And if your educator does fill stuff in, you look at it and review. And if the educator does not, then you add whatever you can verify for yourself. Whatever works for you and the way that you're already working around experience verification should be able to transfer to the new system. Just make sure your educators know. So when you're verifying experience, there's a couple ways to do it. If they've already added stuff, you'll review it, which we'll see once I add the first record. But you do have sometimes on some applications, there will be an option to import from other LDOE databases. Now, this is only going to be for educators that have previously served in the public setting. And I do offer a word of caution about using this feature. Sometimes, particularly for people who served for a lot of years, when you import it, it's kind of a mess. It's a lot of different records, a lot of different years. There are duplicates there. I mean, it's not always clear, concise, well-verified experience. It's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes it's clean and perfect, and it really saves you some time. So I'm just offering the caution. And if you choose to use that import, once you've imported the records, you have to remove them one at a time. Or you could just choose to add them manually, whichever way works best for you. In this case, if I click that, you can see I get kind of a mixed bag. This first record, 22 to 25, gives me the system, the school, the type of school, all that's good. But then see this record is 22 to 24. So that's a duplicate. And this one's 22 to 24, 22 to 24. This one's 22 to 23. And I've got 3 more of those. So it's kind of messy and it's not how we would want to receive it for certification purposes. Submitting it like this would increase the chances of an error being made as we try to make heads or tails of what was verified here. So best practice, if I imported it and it was this messy, would be to use the little scroll bar at the bottom of the experience and remove any of these that are duplicates by clicking on the X. And then pretend I removed the rest for time's sake. Then this first one that's 22 to 25 that kind of covers everything would be the last one left. And I would hit the little pencil to add the remaining information. So teacher, math, grade 6. And that's public school, so Compass. And then maybe I would add a new record. For their current employment. One up there. It's non-public. Started on that date. Current teacher, math, grade 6. Local evaluation. And so then if I had removed these other duplicates, then there would just be the 2 records, these 3 years there, and then the addition of the non-public. So then we ask that you verify if they are currently employed, again, by checking there. And then if you have out-of-state experience verification attestations, you can include those. Otherwise, the local evaluation attestation is often going to be necessary for those that have been serving in a non-public setting. We are using the same form that we've always used or that we've used for the past couple of years. That form is still available on teachlouisiana.net as a separate standalone form. Technologically, we were not able to make that a form that could be part of the system, primarily because people often may be getting those local evaluations from multiple HR offices if they've moved from one non-public setting to another. And we're not able to route the applications to more than one HR office right now. So we are going to continue using that one form as the PDF. So you can have that filled out, upload it here. You just say, yes, you wish to include local evaluations, and then select that file to attach it. For this demonstration, I'll say no, so that the form will be complete. And then you would complete as the HR office. And that will enter your digital signature on the application. and notify the educator that they have an application to check out. They'll get that email the day that you sign the application, and then every day thereafter until they go in and check out the application. The educator does need to return to the packet and go to checkout and then either enter their payment information, or we do have an option to add a prepaid checkout form, otherwise known as a receipt from our current system. We know there will be some folks that have already made payments and now they're in this transition window and they made the payment and they want to be able to use that payment. And so we built a method to do that. It is a little clunky. The instructions are in the applicant guide. I'll just be totally transparent on that. It's kind of a patch that we put in for hopefully just during this transition period to let people use up those receipts. Once we get past the transition hump, everyone will just make their payment right here at the end. The system will calculate how much they owe. They can't pay too much or too little. They can't pay and then find out they didn't need that application, because the minute they pay, that submits the application to our office, and so it'll be processed. They can't, a lot of the mistakes that we've seen with the payment system, they don't have to save the receipt. They don't have to attach the receipt. You don't have to collect the receipt. They'll just make the payment here. The system will automatically attach the receipt to the case, and then they will click. Once their payment's confirmed, there's one more button to say submit, and that application will come to our office for review. So all of the features that I have shown you before under your non-public certification will be available to you, whether by default, whether you do anything else. Once that application has been finalized, then it will move to submitted applications once it's been assigned to a specialist for processing. But before we look quickly at submitted applications, I want to show you one other feature on your active applications list. Over on the right, you have an active actions required option. And by default, that's not set. So it's going to show you all applications that have been sent to your office. But if you click on action required and set that to true, then it will show you only the applications that still require your action. And so in this case, both of those forms have already had the experience verified and the HR forms completed. So those disappeared from the list. And now my list of required actions, things I need to deal with, is blank. I've done all I need to do for today. So I can set that back to not set, and it'll show those applications that are elsewhere in the process and not waiting for me. And you can kind of toggle those back and forth. There is also a false if you're looking for a particular application that you signed and you want to see if it's still in your list. In the event your list gets kind of long and you can't just eyeball it, you can also choose that option. Once the application has been submitted, then it goes to and assigned to a specialist for processing. It goes to submitted applications. And your submitted applications over time will build up and essentially be your history of everything that you've ever signed through LEC. And you can at any time view these statuses. So the case opened, case processed, will be showing there when the case has been processed. If you click on it, you can still click through to the application. Public, submitted. Find a later one. We turned on messaging kind of late in our testing cycle. Hopefully this one. So this is one. This case was processed and a letter was provided. And so that letter will show right here. You will also still be able to see those on teachlouisiana.net. We also will be sending messages through the system. So you can click on any application and then click the arrow to see the application itself. And under messaging, you will see any response that we sent to the application. If there were attachments, you click to show hide attachments and the attachments would be there as well. So if you don't get the email, you can still go to the application itself and see the response. And this email is going to be sent to everybody that signed the application. So under our current system, only the HR office receives the response. But under this new system, the response will go to the applicant, the HR office, And if it's something like this example with the practitioner license, that would also go to the preparation provider. So everybody involved in the application will receive the results, and everybody involved in the application will have that available to them to review at any time through the system. As an HR office, you'd review it through your submitted applications. The same with the preparation providers. And on the educators, they'll see it under their My Educator profile list of applications. They'll see all their applications there and can click on the application to see the messages. So we hope that really helps with the transparency, keeping everybody involved so that you know, providers know, and the applicants know what's going on with the application and what the response was. You also have application review within when you're looking at an application that's in your but really, it's on everything at any point. You can click application review. We think that probably the most common time people will do that is after it's moved to submitted applications. And that would give you the option to review the whole application as it was submitted to our office. And up in the upper right-hand corner, you have the option to export that to a PDF. If I export this to a PDF, it'll create a single PDF file with all the application pages and all of the supporting documents in one file. If you'd like to keep your applications that you submitted or signed separately in your own file management system, once everything's been done, just export the PDF. It'll include transcripts and IDs and receipts, and everything that was attached to this application will be included with the application itself in one nice clean file to be saved. So all of those features are features you have access to, even if you choose to do nothing else within the system. But we've also added some optional features for our non-public partners to give you a little bit more functionality in the system. A lot of these features are available to our public partners by default because they have been reporting employment to us for a long time, and we're able to tap into those systems. And then we know who's working for them right now. So we can show them a list of all their educators, their certifications. We can give them little flags for expirations, let them be able to kind of communicate directly with the educator a little bit through the system. We can add those additional features because we have that employment reporting. As a non-public, you have not had that reporting that you've been doing to us. And so we don't know who works for you until you submit an application on their behalf. So what we've built in is the option for you to set a membership code. And again, this is optional. And it's not working in the test environment. But what the membership code is, you just click membership code and you set the code for your school. You set it, anything you choose, 6 characters, numbers, or letters. And then you provide that code to your educators. Your educators will then need to follow some instructions that are provided in the applicant guide. It's real quick and easy to request to be a member of your school or system. Once they've become members, then you'll have information available in certification expirations. Now, your employee count, since this is a diocese HR office, there's lots of different schools. And here, where there's one employee, that's where one tested person has entered the membership code and become a member of that school. So I can see in this case, for this location, there's one person tied to it. And if I click through here, it'll show me all their certificates and their validity. If this were multiple people, I could see multiple people there. This one might be better. I'll switch users real quick. We've got another test user that has more people attached. Make a little bit better sense. Two. I thought there were 4, but okay. So we've got the educators here. So now you can kind of see there's multiple people attached to this HR office. We can see all the certificates that they hold. I can click through to see, to have these features that are additional, which is to start application requests to the educator. So under the current system, if you do not tie anybody, if you don't create a membership code, don't ask your educators to connect, you won't be able to send them an application. You can, of course, still send them an email and say, hey, you need to log into the Louisiana Educator Portal and start the renewal application. But you won't be able to directly ping them through the system. But if they tie themselves to you, if you make that, say, part of your onboarding process, or have ask your principal to in the next kind of all staff meeting to provide the code to everybody, then you'll be able to find them in the list, send a start application request, and then pick the packet they need to complete. So if they need to do that, a name change, you can send them that packet, and that'll send them an email, but also will link to them on their educator profile. They'll receive a requested action to start that application. Just gives you a couple more features. If you do choose to use the membership code, when you receive requests for membership, they will look like this, and you can claim them or reject them. And so you don't it's not going to let people connect that are not part of your school or your system unless you approve them. And when you are looking at educators here, you also can at any time deactivate somebody. So if they've left, they no longer work for your school, you can just deactivate them, and then that'll keep your list clean. Again, that last part, that is optional. You do not have to do it. You will be able to review and process applications, do your signing as the HR representative without connecting anybody. But it is an option that's available if you'd like to use those extra features. So those are all the things that I wanted to demonstrate for you today to get started. We do have just a few minutes left, about 8 minutes or so. So I'm going to take a quick look at the slide, at the chat, to see if there's anything. So there is a direct question from Bridget Thomas about your own personal Mila account and staff IDs and so forth. So for the purposes and the scope of this call, we would ask that you send those requests for one-on-one support directly to the Teacher Certification Help Center. For general guidance, you may not be able to tell if you have an eScholar account, a staff ID. It is not listed on the LEP, the Louisiana Educator Portal profile. So if you're not sure, I would recommend submitting the request for a staff ID. If you already have one, then they won't create a duplicate. But if you don't already have one, then they'll create it for you. The other way to tell is to try to request the permissions. If you try to request the permissions using the permissions request guidance that we attached earlier, and all the choices are there, then you have a staff ID. If the choices are not there, then you likely don't have a staff ID. There is a question from Anderson asking, what would a non-public school submit for initial certification? That if you want to provide clarity, but that also may be better submitted through the Teacher Certification Help Center with more specifics. What we would need to know what type of initial certification, we would need to know what educational qualifications the person has, like what we would refer to as initial certification would be the initial recommendation for certification that's submitted after a completion of a teacher preparation program, which would have to come from the preparation program provider, not the non-public school. But there are lots of other certificates that would be somebody's first certificate that you may be referring to as initial certification. And we'd need more information to provide any sort of answer there. Let's see. Does the online application for the CBC affect the options for actual fingerprinting? So no, the CBC process, beyond how they're notified that they need to go be fingerprinted, isn't changing at all. So whatever way they have had to do it in the past, that part won't be affected by this system. The system is just checking against our certification database to see if we already have that background check. That looks like all the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. If there are any others, feel free to come off mute and ask them. We do have a few more minutes left. Okay. Well, I will take silence to mean that there are no further questions.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Question, when will the video, the recording of this webinar, when will it be available for us to review it?
We have to submit that to the comms team, and we don't have control of posting it. So we will get it sent in the next couple of days. I do have two others that we will still need to record, and we would like to provide them all to the comms team at the same time. So those will be all recorded by the middle of the day tomorrow. We'll provide them to the comms team. They sometimes they're really fast. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. So it just depends on how busy they are to get them posted, but we'll get them up as quickly as we can. Any other questions?
The requesting LEC permission document wouldn't open.
Okay, so if you send a request to the Teacher Certification Help Center, we can send you a direct link instead of trying to get it out of the chat.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. If there are no further questions, we thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you are excited to start using the system and that you will enjoy it and find it to be more efficient and easier to route all the documents through, and that a lot of the common mistakes that have caused frustrations for the past several years are no more a problem, and that things are a little easier on all of us, and some of the kind of load. We know our HR folks carry a really heavy load, and we hope this helps lighten it just a little bit by automating some of the processes that have been a little frustrating for folks over the past few years. So again, thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a wonderful day.